Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of the iOS Lead Essentials podcast. Here we discuss the strategies in your journey to become a complete senior iOS developer. My name is Bogdan, I'm a senior iOS developer and lead instructor in the iOS Lead Essentials program, the online training program for iOS developers who want to become complete senior developers. Today our special guest is Alain from Switzerland, a lead iOS developer and student of the iOS Lead Essentials program. Hi, Alain, and welcome.
Hi, Bogdan. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to be in the podcast.
Awesome. I'm excited to have you too. So, looking forward to our conversation today. I want to learn more. I want to learn about your achievements with the program. So, can you briefly tell us what these are and then we can dig into them?
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like I've achieved a new level of my technical skills. I've reignited my passion for iOS development. I've gotten a lot better knowledge in many areas like TDD, solid design principles, better design of requirements, reasoning about systems. So it really touched all areas of my know-how in iOS development.
That's awesome, especially the part about reigniting your passion. I totally relate to that, and we can we can talk about it. Yeah, congrats on everything you achieved, and for you watching, stay until the end to learn how Alain did it, and you can achieve it too. Our goal is to find replicable steps that others can follow. So, okay, Alain, let's start with your background. So, how long have you been in iOS development?
Well, I started being interested in iOS development when I was really still just a kid. So my brother got his first iPhone. He imported it from the UK back in 2008. And I'd been into computers since before that. But having this power in this tiny device, it just blew my mind. And I wanted to know how you can build these apps. Yeah. So I had to save up for a Mac, and I got into my first small project in 2010. I think I was 13 at the time. So
Wow.
it's been quite a while. I didn't really get many of the concepts back then, so it took me another couple of years to make some bigger projects. But in 2014, I completed a school project, and I also first got in contact with my employer, where I've been for the time since. So it's really been quite a while.
Wow. So how many years is that with the same company?
So if you count the internship, I think I'm in year 8 now, and for full employment, I'm going on 7 years tomorrow.
Awesome. Really, congratulations on that. I've also worked for a long time with a company and understand it's not always easy to be in the same place for so long. So I think it shows that you have dedication, you have maybe your own self motivation that you can rely on, because it, like I said, it can become tedious maybe at some point, or just too repetitive to be in the same environment for such a long time. And I'm glad to be able to talk to somebody that's had a similar experience. Of course, yours is still in counting, so we'll see where it stops, or maybe you have the unique opportunity to retire from that unique company. We don't know yet, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a really long journey in that company, and it's also changed so much that it remains interesting to me. Um, they started out in 2011. They wanted to make apps specifically, but they also do it in a really responsible fashion towards their employees. So I think they're a great company to be at, and the projects and customers and people have changed. I've also completed a bachelor's degree in that time where I worked part-time. So that's been also some yeah, change for a bit.
Right, right. So they kind of supported you through study. It was the same when I started, and that's pretty cool. But also not an easy time, right? To focus on both your study and on the job requirements. But it definitely makes big progress. So
Yeah, it's a struggle to like split your time between these
yeah,
responsibilities, but at the same time, it's also worth it, I think, because well, one, you're supported financially, and also you get to apply the stuff that you learn right away. So
right.
it's interesting to have this perspective of uh, learning the practical side first, and then a bit of the theory which you can apply.
Okay, so now that you've been doing this for quite a few years already, where do you see your career going, like in the future? Are you aiming for something specific? Do you have some goals in mind?
Yeah, so one change I'm working on now is like building my own projects. It's an area where I want to put more focus in. I've also talked about this with my employer, and they're supporting it, thankfully. Yeah, what I really want is like a bigger project where I can also make some more of the decisions in how to design the application. I think in my usual employment, of course, you work with many people in designing an application, and that's where I'm headed a bit. But it's also, I think, growing in my technical skills, and a big part of that is helping our team grow as well. So as you move into a lead role, that becomes a big part of your responsibility, and something which I'm very excited about.
Nice, nice. So you kind of see potential of growth in multiple areas if you want. One thing which I can also relate to is the desire, the challenges of working on an app that has many users, many um, sessions, if you want, like getting more technical. It's definitely something to like. It's a different experience than just working on a regular app because it pushes everything to the limit. Right? I remember when we had I was working on an app with like a few million sessions per day, and basically any edge case that you thought was this is too edge, like nobody's gonna encounter that because of the high number of users. Those were like maybe 100 200 users per day were hitting that edge case, even though for like in a mathematical point of view, it's like 99 point something 9% they don't have the issue. You still have people that are hitting that, right? So it kind of changes how you approach things. Of course, you still look at the numbers and always drive decisions with numbers, with A/B tests and stuff like that, like measuring everything. But it's definitely a challenge. It's a challenge on how to scale, on how to build, how to release often enough to satisfy all these users, to be able to, let's say, when you have a problem in production, to immediately or as soon as possible deploy a fix. So it's a different challenge than maybe what most developers have to deal with when they just have a I don't know 2-3 week, maybe 4 weeks sprints where they deliver a new version of the app and that's it. Like there's no big pressure on anything, right? So it's something that it would be really useful for your growth to be able to be a part of a team like that. It kind of changes how you think in some ways. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
that's a
mean,
very interesting perspective from like your experience through talking to people. I mean, my work, we're an app agency basically, or a digital agency. So you're always working on different projects, maybe at the same time, or at least every couple months you will get a new project. Maybe you will do some updates to existing ones, but it's a lot of change in that regard. And it's interesting because it always comes with new people as customers, their teams, and new like areas where you can apply apps. But I also think it's interesting to work on a project for a bit longer. Like through talking to people, I think maybe that's just a symptom of like the grass is greener on the other side. So people who work in agencies, they would like to work on longer running products. And the other side, if you've been working on a product for a long time, you want some more different projects. But I think it's both comes with its unique challenges. Like for us, it's interesting how you can apply these learnings in all the different projects where you maybe aren't involved yourself. So there are developers working on different projects than you. You maybe don't have so much insight there. And then it becomes a matter of learning as an organization, as a team. And that's really how change can happen in this situation.
Nice. So I see you're already involved in kind of driving the, let's say, organizational approach to projects, which is a different level, I think, of things. Because first you focus on your project or projects, right? You want to get good with them, and then you start to see things that like you see patterns, and you say, okay, let's apply these patterns to all of our customers, to all our projects, because we could benefit of having this and that. And I, again, my background is similar, because that company that I worked for 7 years, I mean, it was an outsourcing company, but very, very similar to an agency. So we would like do similar gigs where other companies would get our services for building apps. One of them turned from a one-man team to a multi-hundred man team. So I got to experience the thing I mentioned earlier, but it was maybe a coincidence, maybe just pure luck. So you found about the architect crash course, you found about the YouTube channel, and we discussed some of the things you struggled with at that time, testing, a big one of them, architecture also in general, like modularizations, managing modules, managing dependencies, things like that. And then you decided to join. So can you tell us a bit about how you decided to join, and if you have second thoughts, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I looked at this course and I really knew that I wanted to do it. I saw that it was quite a hefty price tag for an online course as well. So I really took some time to consider. I looked at some comparisons and reviews, like reading about the experiences others had with this course. And I decided that it really was what it seems to be. And so I talked to my employer, because we also talked about like doing some courses, or how I can improve my know-how. And I just knew that this could deliver a lot of value, because it was so tailored to, well, the iOS developer experience, but it's really transferable to all developer experience.
Yeah.
But it's focused on that. In the sense, for example, when I did university, of course, you get into lots of areas, but I seem to enjoy like the software engineering courses the most. And this is really taking it to another level of focus for this lead iOS role. It's really encompassed a lot of things that I was dealing with.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And I think now you mentioning the courses you took in university about software engineering, I think by being a very good lead developer, by being a good architect, if you want, you apply the things you learn, like they're still basics, right? It's not nothing very fancy. You don't have like super hacky or super I don't know, smart algorithms that you do. You just do the basics, but there's a simplicity to it, and I think that's the value where you can express very clearly what you want as an engineer, as a software engineer. So it's very, to me, what we teach in the program is very similar to university because it's again back to the basics. The basic things. Of course, each one can get super complicated. Like test-driven development, it's a thing you can study all your life and still have something new to learn, right? There are techniques, there are ways to organize your tasks, to be super efficient, to writing DSLs, to avoid coupling, testing behavior, all of that. But those are like levels in your skill set, right? So to me, it's very similar to the experience I had as a student, because back then I didn't really want to pay attention to all the basic skills. I wanted some new shiny language and framework and stuff like that. And now I kind of say, oh, those guys knew what they were talking about, right? They when they started, like I think first year in the faculty, I had a course where the professor was kind of old, but he insisted a lot on rules of programming. So he had all these rules, and each rule had a number. So for instance, not using an uninitialized variable was maybe rule 7 or something like that. And of course, with nowadays languages, that's not that important. But the thing that stuck with me was, okay, we have rules when we're programming. We don't just do whatever we want. And if you like, I see an overlap with all the principles and techniques we show in the program, whereas okay, we have some rules, we have some context in which we work to be able to transfer these skills, to be able to have clarity for the other people reading that code, that solution. So to me, it's very similar. I don't know if it feels the same for you, but and sometimes the surprises are from things you knew but never took the time to actually understand them properly and to see what's up with this and that. Right?
Yeah. I mean, especially the solid design principles. You read about it, you hear about it in university, maybe. But when you see it in action, it's in this course. So you really see it applied and you understand, or I understood for the first time, what it really means and how you apply it to the real world. And what I found is that it also helps you work better with others, because you can reason more about your code or their code when you give them feedback. So that's really helpful, that you can, maybe before I had like this feeling, something doesn't feel right about this code, but I can't quite express what.
Yeah.
And now you can really go in and pinpoint, hey, this principle here is not being applied right. So this and this we need to change, because it will lead to places you don't want to go.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I totally remember some cases where I felt something was wrong. For instance, one that I can clearly remember was just accessing components or properties like 2-3 levels away. And now then I found out about the law of Demeter, and it was very easy to talk to developers. Whereas before I knew about it, it was like I knew something was missing. So you shouldn't be doing like A plus B plus C something, calling a function on that, because it felt wrong. But I didn't know how to put it in words or how to explain something is wrong. So it's exactly like you said, like when you know the principles, you know the ideas, it's a lot easier to communicate because everybody knows, like, yeah, that's a interface segregation violation, right? Okay, clear. So no argument there.
Yes. Yes, and the good thing is that probably somebody has already put into words what your feelings are, right? It's just a matter of learning the right terms and concepts, and doing a course like this really helps with that because you see it applied.
Right. Right. So, circling back to your experience with the program, after you decided to join, of course, what process did you use for studying? How much time did you allocate? Things like that. Can you detail about it?
So it was pretty variable for me because I started the program when I was traveling through Europe using Interrail. So I was kind of on the go and allocated the time I had, besides working part-time and traveling. Since then, I found that I go through lessons like in bursts or in these modules. So I've taken quite a lot of time to go through it all. It's been, I think, a year now. But once I completed these modules, I really wanted to start applying the concepts that I learned right away. And so it kind of circles back also to my experience with university, where maybe I had the practical side first, then learned some theory, and then went to apply that theory in my practical work. I think it works the same in this course. I really try to integrate the things I learn in the course with my day-to-day work, and you it's a good tool for learning, I think, to apply right away because you will come up with questions as well. So if you don't understand something, it will appear in your day-to-day work. And I think the Slack community is a really great resource, and the knowledge base, which was added to the course as well, while I was subscribed, it's been really helpful for looking things up, even maybe things not directly related to the course, but some technical challenges. If you're struggling with an Apple framework, you can go into the knowledge base. Maybe someone has already dealt with it. It's a really good resource.
Yeah, I fully agree. And we try to make sure all the answers are correct and complete, so you can rely on that information. Yeah, it's very valuable, especially having kind of using the all the experience we have in the academy. So many people there with huge levels of experience, with different experiences. So just putting all that together is an incredible resource, like you said. So okay, you took a less straightforward approach where you kind of allocated variable time to studying, but you still made good progress. So how far along are you in the program?
So I'm in the last module with the live lessons. I just need to complete the last challenge, and I'm done. And I then plan to rewatch everything and write down more notes, I would say. And I think the second time around, once you kind of know what to expect as well, or you're going with different expectations, you can still derive a lot of value from it.
Totally.
I've watched certain lessons multiple times, and you always notice new stuff that you may have missed before because it's really a lot of information in a compact format.
Yeah, and depending on what you're looking for, you might see different things stand out. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think my approach of like doing the lessons in groups and then leaving some time between them worked well for me, because I was also able to time it like to our projects. For example, if you are working towards a release, it may get pretty busy at work. but then you may have some time between different projects where you can allocate more time to learning. So for my situation, that was a good approach, I think.
Yeah, I agree. So how long did it take to get to this point in the program? I think you're pretty close to finishing, so...
Yeah, so I've been at it a year now.
Okay. Okay, so 1 year.
But it's been like constant improvements. I've seen or I've been able to apply things since month 2 or 3. I would say after you complete the first
nice.
few modules, you have enough inputs to apply some of these concepts and start writing tests, and you will learn also from that.
Yeah, I agree. Nice. That's nice to see, especially where I see a difference between like understanding something theoretically and when you try to apply it to, of course, a domain that's different from what you learn it from, then it kind of adds a bit of friction, but it's also a great learning opportunity. I think the science behind learning tells us that that's when you really learn it, is when you can link it to something real that you've experienced or you're experiencing. So yeah, that's definitely the point where you see things happening, right?
Yeah, but I was really surprised by how much of the course was applicable one-to-one to the challenges that I was facing. So it's really tailored to this iOS role, I think. So that's been kind of surprising to me, because other times, as you said, you may have this this friction between what you see or what you learn. I think university was an example for me, because you use different technologies, or you have lots of different topics that you may not use like in your day-to-day. But the things that the course covers, they are really applicable to my situation, I felt.
Yeah, and that's not by accident. I can say that now, after working with Kind Mike for a few years, that they didn't just create a course and be done with it. Right? They spend a lot of time into planning, to seeing what developers need, adapting the lectures, adapting the content to match, like you said, the things you encountered on a day-to-day basis. And of course, maybe it's not like a 100% match, because you have like different projects, different setups and everything, but most of the stuff is in the program is applicable. And that's, like I said, it's not a coincidence. It's been taught over and over to get to that level. And I've experienced that partially with the tooling series, but it's nowhere close to the effort they put into the main program. Okay, you mentioned in the beginning struggling with testing, with architecture, things like that. Now, how do you feel about those areas now that you are almost done with the program?
Yeah, so I can say that we've gone from basically having 0 tests in our project. We are working constantly in the projects that we are touching to add tests. So we have projects with multiple hundreds of tests now, I would say. So it's we've done a lot of work there. There's still a lot of work to do, because you can't work on all these different projects at the same time. You kind of have to figure out as you go. But it's really kickstarted this covering of tests, I would say. And it's also, for me, it's like unlocked desire to do things in a better way, or to learn new things. Because before I was kind of at this plateau of my know-how. We were doing things the way we had been doing, and seeing like all these new tricks, even in just editing code. It's like unlocked this desire to really master or improve your technical skills as well, I would say. And in terms of modularization, it's really helped me in a recent project, which is one of our larger projects with, I think, 400,000 users, where it's quite a big code base, lots of custom UI, lots of custom logic. And I've been relatively easily been able to split it up into different modules, really decrease the build time, and it's become so much easier to work with. I couldn't imagine if I didn't have this know-how, how much of a pain it would be to work with this code base. And it's become pretty easy now.
I'm super glad to hear that. It's really good when you see like the end result. For instance, like maintainability increase or build times being super fast. Yeah, very. It kind of motivates you to want to achieve the same. So that's why we're trying to capture this, because other people might feel like, hey, this is impossible, I cannot do it, and my code base is so big. But there's always room to improve, like always, and especially. I think I read this in a book about a general in the U.S. Army. When things are low, when you have a lot of issues, it's very easy to make progress, because in any area you can make improvements, and they'll be very notable, right? So if you're in that spot, just do any improvement. It's gonna build up. It's gonna give you some confidence. It's gonna, like you said in the beginning, maybe reignite the passion for development in some people. I saw that happen in quite a few projects where we turned things around, and from code bases where you just didn't want to open the project to being excited to get to work, and it's like, let's do this, let's do that. I have another idea. How we can speed it up, how we can, I don't know, add more tests, improve the architecture. It's a very good feeling to be part of such a team where you see these interactions unfold.
Yeah, it's empowering in a way, I would say.
Yeah.
Because before you might see your code base and experience like feelings of frustration, or let's just throw this away and and build it back better.
Yeah.
But now, even if we were to deal with this framework that we had before, I think we could make it work with the right knowledge. You can see it as a challenge to improve things.
I think that's towards like when you get more and more senior, especially on these skills, you see challenges, right? You start to see challenges. You no longer maybe feel the need to rewrite something from scratch. You start to like, okay, let's add some tests to it. Let's see how we can improve it bit by bit. It's a different strategy, and it's a really big differential from other people. Because I mean, if somebody is hiring for a position like that, or just in your company, if all the developers are no, that's not usable, it's legacy, let's throw it away, let's rewrite, and you're the one saying like, no, I think it's valuable, it works, let's use the techniques we know to tame it, to improve it bit by bit, and we can still develop on top of it. Like, of course, you're the big winner in any pool of candidates for such a job, right? It's totally
Absolutely,
different.
yeah.
When you're no longer scared, it's like, no, give me the worst. Like I'm at this point now where I say, give me the worst code, just the worst, and I'll challenge, I'll fight with it, and I'll test it, I'll change it in ways you couldn't even think possible, because when you test it, and it's like, okay, let's do.
Yeah, and it becomes fun even, right?
Yeah,
You
it's
have
fun. It's like
to
a challenge.
find. Yeah, it's like a puzzle you need to solve. You need to find the right places to start. You need to think about how you can break it into smaller pieces, how you can test the existing code without needing to change too much of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the good thing is once you have these tools in your tool set, you see how or where you can apply it in the code base, right? You see, oh, just need to change this tiny little bit and we can make it testable. And once you're aware that this is possible, it unlocks so much.
Yeah, it's a different game. Right? Okay. I know you mentioned about the financial improvement as well. So you also managed to get some significant increase, and I know people are curious usually about that. So I want to ask you a bit, how do you manage to do it? What's your, let's say, recommendation for people that are like in your case, like working for the same company for a number of years, and they still want maybe to earn more money, and how do you accomplish that?
Yes, so maybe our company is a bit of a special situation. We have like a wage plan, or like a wage model, let's say, where if you take more responsibility in a team, you automatically get a higher compensation. So for me, that's been, I think, about 5 to 10% of an increase just for taking this lead iOS role. For me, I've been pretty happy with my compensation even before that. I see, like, I get more joy from the kind of work I can do with the team now. And I found it was really impactful once you can grow beyond your own skills and help a team perform better, because it will multiply your output by a lot if
Yeah.
you're empowering a team to do things.
Totally, totally, and I'm on board with this. Where I think the team, if you can manage to build a team that's maybe better than you, if that has more skills, more types of personalities, things like that, then you can really make a difference. And it's not it no longer is the case where the lead developer must be the best developer at everything. It's more of a like leading, right? And leading means just showing the path, showing the, the things we want, the values, and the others can follow with their
Yeah, I mean, part
strengths.
of
Yeah,
part of working with a team is realizing that you can't always be the best at everything. People have their own unique strengths, and your job is to make them be able to use their strengths
yeah,
to the advantage, right?
yeah,
But I think also, even if you don't switch your role to a different company, you will benefit a lot. One, in your technical skills, and if you move to a different role within the same company, if you can write, I've been the lead iOS developer at this company for a few years now. Even if you move on to another role later, that will look great. And I've gotten very good offers from recruiters as well. But I'm happy with the company where I'm at right now. They really care about their people. I can influence lots of decisions. Everyone's opinion is heard. So I think those are really important values for me right now.
yeah. Yeah, there are. I mean, it sounds like a great company. I also like the structure, the payment structure you talked about. So it's transparent. It's not about everybody's like behind doors negotiation skills. It's no. It's like upfront. You do this, you get that. You do the other thing. You do more, you get more. So that's also probably coming from a value that they have as a company. So yeah, I totally like what I'm hearing from you. I think it's probably a good place to be in. So I still want to ask you about what what are the main takeaways you got from the program, like the biggest impact for you.
Yes, I would say one is the realization that you can make tests work. Like, it's possible to write tests that are maintainable and fast and reliable. Um, we had people on the team before who didn't believe that unit tests were worth it. But once you see how much value it delivers for your code base, for your work, I think that's a huge takeaway. Um, one more is the principles and like applying these solid design principles, but also the TDD workflow, learning about that and how to apply it in the day-to-day world. That's a huge thing. And I would say the third thing that I want to mention here is like the mindset that you take away from it. You once you see that there is a level so much beyond what you've experienced, even if you've done years of iOS development, like it feels almost magic to see this skill in refactoring and architecting things in a way which makes sense. It really challenges you to become better, I would say.
Yeah, it does. And I would add to this, like the items you mentioned are great. I would also mention the thing you said in the beginning, just reigniting the passion for development. I think that's a very important one, especially when you reach a certain point in seniority. I think that was the case for many seniors I know. So you're kind of very excited at the beginning, then comes a time when it fades a bit, and then just reigniting that is very special, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. If maybe that's a bit unique to our situation, but the way it works in our team, I think pretty much everyone who is working nowadays started out at this company as a junior developer. So at least for the people in Switzerland, like there were no iOS developers before me, or they left before I joined, and we were working with remote people, and know-how transfer there was an issue. And if you only hire like junior developers, they will learn the skills from you. You will learn them from some tutorials or just by trial and error. But you will like reach a level where you no longer progress naturally, like in your know-how. If you stay at a place for a longer time, you will plateau with your skills. And getting these fresh inputs and ideas about how you can make your situation better, that's been really, really valuable in this regard, because you can do like single tutorials or listen to videos on how to solve certain problems, but having this structured approach really gives a lot of value.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Any advice for our viewers today?
I would say dedicate the time to the course. And if I were to start today, I would probably do it in a like different order. I would first just watch the lectures and take notes without coding along, and then on the second run through the course, complete the project and the challenges. That's kind of the reverse of what I've done, but I think that's
Right.
a learning from me. And another advice is to like think about where you are in terms of your technical skills, and think about where you want to go, which areas you can expand your knowledge in, and really focus there.
Perfect. So one for like more concrete on how to deal with learning and with the
Absolutely.
program, and the other like more generic. Perfect. Because
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
gonna ask for a more generic one. Perfect.
Yeah.
To close this, anyone wants to reach out like a company or individual, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me on Twitter, or X as it is now known. It's at Stulz, or on LinkedIn under my name, Alain Stulz.
Awesome. So Alain, thanks a lot for coming in today and for sharing everything.
Yes, it's been a great experience. Thank you,
It
Bogdan.
was great talking to you.
Yes, it's been fun. Thanks everyone for listening in.
for watching. If you want to learn more, just visit us at essentialdeveloper.com, and there you can find a bunch of free resources to improve your iOS dev skills, and also on the social channels, YouTube, Twitter, now known as X, and so on. Thank you, and see you soon.